This is Gemara Baba Basra Daf Kof Gimel, and all the learning has been sponsored as an incredible Zchos Refuah Shalema for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyata Dishmaya. The Koyach HaTorah Talmud Torah Kenegei Kulam should bring Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva to a incredible Refuah Shalema B'Karev. We're holding at the Gemara on the bottom of Kaf Beis Beis. We began the Mishnah. And the Mishnah taught us that if someone is selling a base core, then 10 tfachim is the number. That at 10 tfachim, if there are clefts, if there are rocks, they are not included in the evaluation of the base core. But once it is less than 10 tfachim, then it is included. The Mishnah ended with a second case, which is if someone says kib base core offer, then everything is included. So we begin the Gemara and we quote a related sugya, which is when it comes to being makdish and redeeming a field. Says the Mishnah Tanan Halsa, we learned to the Mishnah Erichin. Hamakdish sadeu b'shasa yovel. If someone is makdish his field during a time when there is yovel, a time when grove of Klal Yisrael are in Eretz Yisrael, and the halacha is at year 50 everything goes back. Noisin Laila Beizera Chaimer Sairim Chamishim Shekel Kesef. Says the Mishnah, when he wants to redeem it, he has to give for every area in which a measurement called a Chaimer of Sairim of barley 50 shekel. Hayu Sham on the last line, let's say on the field there are areas of these clefts 10 tvachim deep, or of these hills 10 tvachim tall. Then says the Mishnah, Ein nimdadin ima. It is not considered part of the field, meaning it is not part of the measurement of the chaymer of Sairim. They have to pay 50 chamishim shekel kesef. Pachas mikan, less than 10 tvachim, nimdadim ima. Says the Gemara, so almost a parallel din to the din in our Mishnah, the din there in Erichin. Says the Gemara, Vamai, and what's the reason? What is the reason that if it's more than 10 tvachim, you don't pay the 50 shekel per chaymer? Why don't you just view it as its own entity and redeem it as such? Maybe you're going to suggest, maybe the reason is because since these areas do not equal one base core, therefore they were never hektish in the first place. But that's not true. Vatani, we learned in the Brisa Sada, says in the Torah, that if you're makdish Sada, matam leimer levishen emar zera chaymer sairim. Why does it have to say the word Sada? Because it teaches us in the pasuk zera chaymer sairim b'chamishim shekel kesef. For there we learn out that I would only know that you pay 50 shekel per chaymer of sairin. If you were makdish it in that manner, is it meaning you took one chaymer of area? Again, chaymer is a measurement, and you're makdish him, and the rabbis letech v'chati letech. So tarkev v'chati tarkev. How do we know to include other areas? Someone was makdish a lesech, half a lesech. So a tarkev, half a tarkev. Talmud loymar. That's why we have the extra word sada in the pasuk. Mikol makayim, to include that everything is hektish. So clearly, at any amount, it becomes hektish. So ask the Gemara, so what's the reason that if it's more than 10 tvachim deep, more than 10 tvachim tall, the Mishnah taught us it's not included in the rate of a chaymer per 50 shekel. It should still be included. It should just be evaluated by itself. Amar Rav Ukva Bar Chama teaches the Gemara Hacham B'nekayim Aleyamayim Askinan. We're dealing with over here clefts that are filled with water. Delav B'nei Zriya Ninu, and that's why. Meaning, Ein Hachanami, answers the Gemara. If indeed these areas were plantable, were fit for vegetation, and it's true, it would, yes, be included in the same rate of redeem of 50 shekel kesef per chaymer so'irim. Says the Gemara, they're filled with water, they're not suitable for planting, and therefore they are not redeemed. Proves the Gemara that this is indeed accurate. Teikanami, I'll give you a raya. What's the raya? Teikatani, because what did the Mishnah say? Smack in the middle of the Amid. First word on the line is Dumya. Teikanami, Teikadanya, Dumya Dislayim. Similar to Rak, Shema Mina, that just like Rak is not plantable, so to these areas. Asks the Gemara, Yachiv is that even less than 10 tefachim should have the same halacha. Since there's nothing you could do on this rock, there's nothing you could do in this cleft, it should not be included in the area. Answers the Gemara, Hanu Nagani Dara Mikri. Answers the Gemara that if it's smaller than 10 tefachim, it's Naganu, it's just a crack in the land. And therefore, it is, yes, included in the valuation. Shedra Dara Mikri, these are called the spines of the land, meaning these are normal areas that one has within his field, small clefts and small hills. And that is the reason why it is, yes, included in the sale. Asks the Gemara, Hachamai. Says the Gemara, back into our Mishnah. So in that Mishnah Ne'arachin, we explained that it has to be talking about that you have areas that are filled with water. But ask the Gemara, Hachan our Mishnah, what's the din? Amar Papa. Afal bi, even though Shein Malayim Hayim. My timer, says the Gemara. Because Ein on the right says, Shita Merisim Akamecha of the year like Ishtayim, Rishleishim Mekaimis. Says the Gemara in our Mishnah, we're dealing with someone buying a field and no one wants, explains Rav Papa, to pay for a field and it to be viewed as if it's multiple fields for the fact that it's broken up by different clefts and rocks, etc. Maskiv la Ravina, but Ravina's not happy. Yes, on Rav Papa, Dumya Dislayim Katani. What happened to the diuk? Says it's similar to Rak. Maslam Davanei Ninu, Avanin Davanei Ninu. So l'chayra, should he be referring to an area that is filled with water? Answers the Gemara, Kikatani Dumya Dislayim Apachs Mikan. You're right, but only on an area that is less than 10 tefachim. That's when it's Dumya Dislayim, because it is not plantable, etc. We continue quoting the next part of the Mishnah that if it's less than 10 tefachim, it is yes nimdadan imam, is yes measured with it. Amar Rav Yitzchak. Comes along Rav Yitzchak and he says, Tarashim Shamru. These rocks that we are discussing, Beis Arba Kabin. Says Rav Yitzchak, the rocks under discussion in the Mishnah, it's only if it's less than Arba Kavin, that's when the buyer accepts it. However, if it's more than that, then he does not have to accept any part of it. Amar Rav Bar Chama Vusha Muvlan Bechamishes Kabin, says Rav Bar Chama, and this 4 kav is measured only when the rocks are over an area of 5 kav. So up to 4 over an area of 5. Rav Chiva Rabban Rav Yechon Vusha Muvlayin Beruba Shalsada, says Rav Chiva Rabban, has to be Muvla, distributed, spread apart over the majority of the field. Meaning, can't be in one concentrated, isolated area, then it would not be part of this sale. So, by Rav Chiva Rabba, 2 lines in the bottom. Rubam b'meutam, utam b'ruba mau. What is the story? If the raiv of the 4 kav are within a small area of the field, or a minority are spread over the majority, what is the halacha? Is that yes included or not? And says the Gemara, Teiku, for this we're going to have to wait for Mashiach. So continues the Gemara, Bai Rav Yirmiyah, as we turn over to Kaf Gimel Amid Beis, as the Gemara continues to try to figure out different land configurations and in what area they are yes included in a sale of a field or not. Says the Gemara, Kshir Mau, Kshura Mau. What is the halacha if the rocks in the field are arranged like a bracelet or in a row? If you look at Rashi, you see the picture. It's Adina and Mau. They're arranged like horns. They're Mau. They're on a diagonal. Says the Gemara, Teiku again. For all of these, you have to wait for Mashiach. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Dina Braisa, Mayasele Yechidi. If there's one rock on the boundary of the field. Even a small rock is not included. You cannot measure from the stone, rather you exclude such a stone. And if it's near the next to the boundary, then even a teeny little rock is not included. So Mufsik Offer Bein Tayumahu says Rababa, what is the halacha if there's a little bit of earth between the rock and the boundary? Does such a rock still get the din of being considered on the boundary? Says Gemara Teiku. By Ravashi, Offer Mamata V'Summa Mamalo, what if there's dirt on the bottom but it's rock on the top? Or Offer Mamata Mamata at all these levels. Are you allowed to measure this part of the field? And says Gemara once again, Teiku, we don't have answers to any of these questions. Continues the Gemara with another Mishnah of Gimel and Beis, which continues the same theme of when selling a field and different wordage that is used at the time of the sale. Beis kor offer animoich lecha mida bechevelu. Beis kor offer animoich lecha mida bechevelu. If he says, I'm selling you a base core as measured by rope, pichas kolshu, then if he even gave a drop less, yenake, he has to deduct from the price. Hoiser kolshu gave a gram more. Yachzir, he has to return it, meaning if he explicated explicitly, I'm selling you a base core measured by rope, then it's mamish precise. V'mamar hein cheser hein yeser. If he said, selling you a base core, whether it's a little bit less, a little more, then there's a large margin for error. Then even if it's up to a roiva l'sa, a quarter per sa, it's part of the sale. Says the Gemara, why are we saying that you have to return money? What is the reason? Says the Gemara, liyabais koicha shel moicher, to increase the power of the koicha she'im shire b'sadem. What does it increase the power? Because if there was an area of vistish's cabin, ubagino, or in a garden, beis chatzika, buchdiv Rav Akiva, beis roiva, then what? In those cases, we would indeed agree that you don't just return the cash, you return the karka because it's a suitable, sizable piece of land. Once you return it, you got to return all the excess. The Gemara will explain the parameters of this in the Mishnah. Picking up from here, B'siyata Dishmaya.